Joining us right now is Mikayla Pazzi, who is a social justice activist, a community organizer. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in Politics, Philosophy and Economics, and is currently furthering her studies in international politics. Mikayla has been actively involved in community organizing and activism with focus on race relations, gender justice, and addressing inequality in South Africa. She is also an alumni of Future Elect Southern Africa, a program for leaders. Mikayla, welcome to the show.
Hi, baby. Hi, Zan. Hi, listeners. I hope you guys are all good. How are you doing today?
We are good and excited to have you.
I'm so excited to be a little nervous, if I'm being honest, but I'm very excited.
Oh, don't be nervous. We don't bite. But today is Reconciliation Day, and I wonder what it means to you personally, especially as a white South African.
So, to me, Reconciliation Day isn't about a celebration, right? It's about responsibility. As a white South African in particular, I don't experience the legacy of apartheid as daily harm, right? But I do benefit from the systems that it was built on. That built that harm. So it's to me about choosing not to be defensive or silent, but to rather be accountable and to have these conversations and listen to stories that make people, white people, feel uncomfortable, that make me feel uncomfortable, but choosing not to be defensive or silent about it, rather asking, what did I do with the inheritance that I didn't earn?
I'm very curious to know from you, Mikayla, how does one spend a day like this? What activities can they do, or also how do they get to the point of, trying to reconcile on a day like this, or trying to remember, if not celebrate, because you did say that it's not a time for celebration, at least you don't see it that way. Neither do I as well. But how do they do that? How do you do that as well? What do you usually like to spend this particular day in the calendar doing?
So usually I don't have any formal traditions or anything that I formally do on Day of Reconciliation, because for the past 6 years I have been working every day on public holidays. So to me, it's while I'm at work or after, it's just listening more than we speak, right? It's taking in the stories, the understandings of our history, and trying not to be defensive about it. It's also when we have these conversations, it's very important that white South Africans stop centering their comfort in these conversations about justice, to stop making it about themselves and their comfort, that to the point where we can't have these conversations because, we don't feel comfortable. It's not about us at the end of the day, in that regard. And we really need to listen more than we speak and intervene when racism shows up in white spaces, whether that be in our schools, in our personal lives, in our workspaces. It's very important, because at the end of the day, we have access to the institutions, to the capital, to the decision makers. And it is our responsibility to not be silent in those spaces.
You speak of, uncomfortable conversations. I just want to know, what do you think it is that makes white South Africans feel uncomfortable in conversations like this?
Personally, I think it's being afraid, or not being afraid, but the accountability aspect of it is something, because I didn't grow up in apartheid, right? I was born a few years after apartheid ended. But I still know the legacy that it's built, and I feel that it's hard to have those conversations, just because accountability and justice isn't something that people really want to discuss.
And I wonder, when you talk about how, white people are uncomfortable in coming to the party to have these conversations, and a lot of the times they're self-centered and wouldn't want to be part of engaging because it would mean acknowledging the fact that they are still beneficiaries of the system of apartheid. Do you see then the work of trying to reconcile this Rainbow Nation dream that Madiba had being something that's possible to achieve?
Yes, it is possible, but we can't have these conversations without one thing being at the forefront of these conversations, and that's economic redistribution, wealth redistribution. So economic policy that redistributes wealth. That needs to be the forefront of our conversation, because we can't reconcile without material change, because reconciliation without material change is symbolic at best. And that's not going to change people's lives. And by redistributing the wealth, it will really impact people's lives. And if we invest in education and healthcare and do like land reform, but land reform that's done transparently and humanely, and most importantly, ending spatial apartheid. Like, those are things that need to happen for us to address reconciliation. Yes, socially, we need to have the conversations, but we also need to see the material change.
I'm wondering now, I was saying earlier before we had you on the line that I think when we do look across South Africa in this modern day, we still see a lot of divisions. We still see, different people tending to, go to certain people that are more like them and not people that aren't necessarily like them. So I just want to know, what do you think is one of the biggest, divisions in South Africa that you see today?
Sorry, you broke up at the end. What is the biggest division?
Yes, I wanted to know from your perspective, what is one of the biggest divisions you still see in South Africa today?
Honestly, to me, it's the economic wealth inequality, but it's also the spatial apartheid that isn't spoken about. It's the fact that workers and employees of color have to live outside the cities or outside the suburbs. And then they have to pay so much money just to travel to work, but they get less than or the same salary as white people who live in the suburbs or in the city centre. So I feel like that is something that's not discussed. Like in Cape Town, it's a major issue, so as it is in Johannesburg. But it's something that really needs to be addressed because of the apartheid laws that came and they separated people and they took people out their homes and they moved them into segregated areas. That's never been addressed. It was like apartheid happened and, okay, cool, it's ended legally, but geographically it's still there.
I'm just wondering, Mikayla, what do you think redistribution of wealth looks like? In terms of, is there a way it happens without things being taken from those that we could say are beneficiaries of apartheid? So is there a way in which the wealth can be redistributed without it being taken away from the white minority that does benefit from past things that happened?
Yes. So I think like in the workplaces, we should really address like the pay gaps and representation in the workplaces. I think that's where it materially starts because people of color and black people earn marginally less. They are not in the economic system at the moment. They are marginalized in the economic system. So we've seen that with our banking system, who are known to marginalize black people in particular when it comes to home loans and just capital for businesses. I think it is addressing those issues at the source, at the system issues. It's not always just about taxing the rich. Yes, I completely support taxing the rich, but we need to address the other ways as well, and that's the workplace pay gaps, the like I said, with the banks and stuff as well.
Yeah, there was a very controversial billboard that spoke to how South Africa is one of the most race-regulated countries in the world, and I don't know if you saw it, but I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that. Do you think that we are the most race-regulated country in the world?
I did see those billboards, and I completely disagree with that. There aren't 144 laws that are race regulated. If you look it up, those laws just happen to have the word race in them. No matter the context, they were like, okay, it's a race law. No, South Africa is not a race regulated country, or the most. I think BEE, in particular, BEE is very important in redistributing of wealth. I don't think it's done properly. but that doesn't mean that it's now a race like country, you know. I do also feel like there is a part of white South Africans that, how can I say this? They are, I don't want to use the word afraid, but they are, I'm going to say it as it is. They are afraid of equality. They are afraid of what it means when a black person and a person of color is equal to them. They think that they must give up all their rights because that's what they did to black people. They took away their rights, so that's what they think is going to happen to themselves because of the past.
Oh man!
Wow, you are on the money, Mikayla. You are on the money. Something I do want to also ask as well in your work, you know, as an activist, has there been situations where maybe you've had conversations or you've seen an interaction between you and a person of color, and it's brought you to that point of you felt like that reconciliation is happening, that understanding is happening? Could you talk us through how an experience like that went down?
Oh yes. They especially in like the Future Elect program, when I was there with Baby, we went to the Apartheid Museum, and that was something that really like affects me. I've been there before, but I was younger and I didn't really fully understand everything. And I went there and I just had conversations with people, and especially the Future Elect fellows, and we just discussed what it's like to be black, what is it like to be white, what is it like to be colored, Indian, you know, all our different races that make up our country. And it really confirmed that, yes, we will be different races and different religions, but at the end of the day, we all have one goal, and that is to unite South Africa. What uniting means is not just putting the differences aside and forgetting our history. It is making sure that we address our history. We don't ignore our history. We don't sanitize our history. But we also hold the people accountable for what they did.
Absolutely. I love that. Also, as a white South African yourself, what unique responsibilities do you feel that white people have when it comes to the work of reconciliation? Because a lot of the times you find that black people are saying, hey, white people are refusing to come to the table to have these conversations. So where do you begin? What would be the responsibility of a white South African who says, hey man, I didn't live, you know, in apartheid. I'm a born free. I didn't do anything to black South Africans, so why must I be a part of any reconciliation process when I didn't harm anyone?
No, very good question, baby. Very good question. First of all, listen more than we speak. Because we are so quick to interrupt black person or person of color with their experiences. And they were like, no, but I wasn't around. No, but that was my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. If you look at history, it was your grandmother who experienced it. It was your parents who experienced it. They didn't get education or proper housing, proper housing. It has lasting effects. So we've got to realize that there is a legacy of apartheid. We've got to listen more than we speak. And also, we got to speak up in racist spaces, in our white spaces, when we have racist people talking the way that they talk.
Yeah.
The biggest thing we can do is interrupt them and call them out on it. But people, or white people, are afraid of doing that. They're afraid of the uncomfortability that brings.
I'm interested, you know, Mikayla, you speak so eloquently, and it makes me just think of asking you, if it was up to you, if you were to give us, you know, the detail of what your vision would look like, even if it's not necessarily detailed, but your vision of what a united South Africa would look like and would feel like if we succeeded in our attempts to unite, in our attempts to reconcile.
So my vision for South Africa, where we are unified, is where dignity isn't conditional, right? So your chances in life aren't predicted by your surname or the suburb you live in, right? It's where disagreements, whether you like political disagreement, whatever disagreement, doesn't mean dehumanization. So we might disagree, but I'm not going to go and take your rights away, you know? And it's also just about a safe country and a more humane country, right? Where people of color, black people aren't marginalized. The LGBT community aren't marginalized. Women aren't being marginalized and killed, you know? It's things like that that is really, really important, and the way that I see South Africa.
You know, what role do you think that government should be playing? Since government is the leader of society, what role do you think government should be playing in fostering this whole process of reconciliation? Are there any interventions that you feel like are needed to make sure that we are having these conversations? I mean, we also had the National Dialogue, the first convention, which was held earlier this year. What do you think the role of government should be in fostering the process of reconciliation?
So with regards to the National Dialogue, most people don't even know it happened. If you're not in tune with politics and South African politics, nobody knows it happened. They just know taxpayer money went to it, you know? So I feel like that did not work in the way it was supposed to, or the way it intended. And then with regards to how I think our government can work is being open to having these conversations, right? Like I said, there's economic policies that they can do, and social policies and all that kind of stuff that they can do, that I feel like is very important in pursuing this. But it is also putting down the so-called movements that are going overseas and spreading lies about this country. It is about taking them seriously and having consequences for that. You know? I don't think it is right for people who are not government representation, or even those that are in government that are doing it, going overseas, tittle-tailing on what's happening in South Africa, and then we face the consequences. You've seen that with the Goa, you've seen that with Trump, you know?
There's something I actually want to ask to that. You know, what do you feel as if that consequence should look like when you do have maybe you know, a white South African that is able to go on, you know, international news outlets and to say things that we as normal South Africans know aren't unreflective of the country that we live in, aren't unfactual statements, you know? So what sort of consequence should there be for somebody who does something like that?
Personally, I believe it is treason, especially going to other governments. When we discuss, when it's being discussed on media, we can accept different points of views, but there needs to be an accountable media that disputes these, like fact checks them in real time, in the moment. But I also don't think that if someone goes and spreads such lies and hatred about the country, that they should be given airtime. Sorry, that's controversial, I know. Free speech, but like it is destroying our country in a way.
But you've probably heard that, you know, this group who are speaking of AfriForum says, but Malema gets away with saying things like, oh, you know what, kill the Boer, kill the farmer, gets away with things like, we will take all the land from the white people. But doesn't that matter though? That you have, you know, a person like Malema saying all such things, and yet we can't have someone who belongs to the AfriForum saying, hey, farmers are dying, white farmers are dying.
No, look, there is no issues with discussing it, like with the farm murders, but don't politicize the victims. That's what currently is happening. They are taking these victims who are being horribly killed, and they are politicizing them to push an agenda. Yes, so is Julius. He's also pushing an agenda. Don't get me wrong. He's also pushing an agenda. But I also think at the end of the day, it's context. He is singing a struggle song. That's controversial in the white spaces to say that he is singing a struggle song. But he is. And yes, he's using it to push an agenda. Yes, it's controversial. Whether I disagree with it or not does not matter. But at the end of the day, it's his right to do that. But I don't think it is right for people, for Solidarity and AfriForum, to go overseas and discuss with governments that there is this white genocide happening in South Africa.
And just before we let you go, Mikayla, how do you think that as activists, ordinary people of South Africa, both black, white, Indian, how can they work together to secure a reconciled and, equitable future for our children and for the generation that is to come?
Oh, very good question, baby. So for the future and what everyone can do, it's about making sure that your activism isn't reserved just for marches and voting day. So what I mean is, look where your money is going. Look where you're spending your money. Look how you speak at home, how you challenge the injustices in your workspace, in your personal life. It's things like that, right? It's making sure that it's not just for voting day and it's not just for the protest. It's in your everyday, ordinary life, your daily life, that you are making changes. That ensures that, everyday people can make change that's durable, that can withstand harm. And that's when reconciliation becomes real, when it's shared.
Absolutely. That is when reconciliation becomes real, when it is shared amongst all parties. Thank you so much, Mikayla, for joining us and for such, incredible insights.
And
We
you know what?
appreciate it.
Something I want to say, Mikayla, you lied to us in the beginning. You said that you felt a little bit nervous. You were not nervous at all. You were brilliant.
Oh, thank you, Brand. I appreciate it. Thank you, baby, and thank you, everybody and listeners. I really do appreciate it. I hope you guys have a good public holiday and festive season.
Yes.
We hope you also not working today, are you?
Yes, I am. And you?
At least it's not just us.
Yeah, we're all in this together. Now that's the proper Rainbow Nation.
Yes.
Thank you. That was Mikayla Pazzi joining us to share her insights on Reconciliation Day, and these insights that she shared. Oh my God, where do we even begin?
There's this thing we do in poetry, that whole. Yeah, I was catching myself in that whole mood, man. So much about it was so insightful for me.
Sure.
And I think she spoke so eloquently about how there tends to be this fear amongst white South Africans that maybe equality will mean them giving up what they had taken generations ago. And I think it has to be mentioned like that because that's where it comes from. It isn't because any black person says we will take stuff from you and give it to everybody else. It's because they know that's how high they got it. Exactly.
Right. And so they are worried. It's like how a rapist will fear going to prison because they might be raped too.
Yeah, because they understand the trauma because they've inflicted it.
Yeah, absolutely. 56 minutes past the hour of 10. You are still tuned in on Beyond the Grey with myself, Baby CEO, and of course, Zan, the man. When we